Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Yasaka and Kunou? If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, so without wasting any time, let's get into the video. He gave a sigh as he graded another test and thought. Why am I a teacher again? Oh right, for cover. Facepalming for his stupidity of taking a teacher job as cover, he sighed again and reluctant continued to grade the tests from his class. The next test he graded caused him to pause and furrow his eyebrows. He stared at the text that was written and looked around the empty classroom, seeing and sensing nothing out of the ordinary. His left pointer finger gained a soft golden glow. He tapped the paper with his glowing appendage and it glowed for a brief moment. He narrowed his eyes and spoke quietly to himself. Himejima, huh? I knew you were not entirely normal. Directly under the name Himejima Keno stood now three simple words that were hidden by some kind of illusion before he dispelled it. What are you? He grinned. I didn't think a student of all things would discover me first. He graded the paper and wrote a note on the bottom of Akeno's paper. Suddenly his handy began to vibrate. He took it out, looked at the name of the caller, stopped and then heaved a sigh. Grumbling to himself, he answered the call. What do you want? He asked with clear, albeit forced, annoyance in his voice. The other end was quiet for a moment till a female voice answered. Is that any way to greet me, Naruto? The now named Naruto could only sigh again. He could practically see the pout on her face. No, and normally I would greet you with more enthusiasm, but you're stopping me from finishing my work and going home, so excuse me if I'm a little irritated. Oh. Sorry. Thou wait, you work? Why? If you needed money you could have told me. It's not because of money. And no, I can't tell you why I'm working. But that's not the topic here. What did you want? I didn't know you were the type for small talk. Normally I'm not one for small talk, but you're right, I didn't call for small talk. I need your help, it's important and I don't know who else to ask. And what is so important for you to call me? I mean, you're one of the few that know who am I really. Anyways, I'm sorry, but I don't think I am the right one to help you. Please. Kunou is in danger. I don't know how, but at least the Angel faction suspects just whose daughter Kunou is. And you don't want to protect her. There was a flash of light and the classroom was empty. Is it because Kunou is not her daughter? Hey, are you Whoa? What the peep? Kunou is not her daughter. Hey, are you Whoa? What the hell? The woman previously on the phone exclaimed, shocked, as she blinked in disbelief at the person who has taken her phone. The woman's name is Yasaka, and she is a Kyuupi Yaokai. She is a well-endowed woman that wears currently something akin to a shrine maiden and has yellow golden eyes and hair, currently done in a messy bun. Her fox ears and tails are of the same color as her hair and eyes. She stared at the man in front of her and took in his appearance. Short messy blonde hair that can put the sun to shame and cerulean eyes, clearer as the sky, now with a hard edge in them, stared back at her. He wore a black suit, an orange tie and black dress shoes. His name is Naruto and in his right hand was her phone. He held it out for her to grab and narrowed his eyes at her. Hinata has nothing to do with this. Now, tell me, why do you think the Angel faction knows something about Kunou, and where is she? Yasaka narrowed her own eyes at him. There at least Raphael-san demanded to know where her father was. Of course, I couldn't tell him where he was because I didn't know it myself. And she's with her tutor. But before you run off to find her, and I know you will, I would like to speak with you. At the end of the sentence her eyes softened vastly. Please. He stared for a moment longer and the tension left his body. He stepped forward and engulfed Yasaka in a hug. I missed you so much. But it was for exactly that reason that I left, you know. I'm sorry for not telling you, but when you gave birth to Kunou I knew I must leave or you and Kunou could be in danger. If the other factions knew I had a daughter with you they would stop at nothing to get to aaannd or Kunou. I was afraid. I couldn't lose you or Kunou, not like I lost Hinata. Yasaka, please believe me when I say I love you as much if not more than Hinata. But for the safety of you and Archangel I had to leave. And I will always love you, so don't cry. After the first sentence left Naruto's mouth, Yasaka cried. Cried as hard if not harder as when he left. She couldn't believe it, he didn't left because he was angry with her for getting pregnant with Kunou, but to protect her and Kunou from his enemies. How could she have so little faith in him, the man she fell in love with, the man that gave her her greatest joy, their daughter? Her husband Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto stood there and let Yasaka cry into his chest as he himself let his tears fall. He didn't know how he managed it to leave his wife and daughter for 15 long years, nor did he care. But he knew one thing, he wouldn't be able to do it again. If anyone wanted to mess with him, they could come to him, but he won't leave anything, not even ashes, of the aggressor to bury, if they so much as thought to harm his family. But that could wait, now he should concentrate on how to tell his 15-year-old daughter he is her father and left shortly before her birth to protect her and her mother from his enemies. As Naruto thought of the problem at hand, Yasaka's sobs became gradually lighter and she raised her of her Naruto's shoulder and thought with a wry grin, my Naruto. It feels good to think so again. She shifted her eyes to his to ask if he would leave again, but saw Kunou in the doorway looking at the both of them, shocked. Oh shit. But before she could open her mouth to explain, her daughter beat her to it. Mom. Who is this and why is he hugging you like that? Finally. I thought I'd die of boredom. Thought a young woman of about 15 as her tutor told her she is free to go home. I really hope my school is not as boring as my tutor. The girl was a little on the short size, height-wise anyways, with golden blonde hair and eyes, with her hair done up in a short high ponytail, and a few bangs on the sides and in the middle of her face. She had on a light orange t-shirt with a grinning dark orange fox face imprinted in the belly area that did nothing to hide her generous bust. Above the fox, in a speech bubble stood "Look who's my next prey." In black and on the back of the shirt in another bubble, "Too late to run now. Muhahaha." She wore skinny black jeans and orange and black high tops. Her name was Kunou Uzumaki and her eyes were practically shining with amusement as let out her golden fox ears and 3 fox tails to scare the rabbit yokai that eyed her t-shirt warily. As she rounded a corner in the huge mansion that she and her mother live in, she heard whisper from a few of the maids that worked here, such as, "Have you heard Yasaka-sama screaming a while ago, and do you think Yasaka-sama is okay?" I heard her crying shortly after the screams, but it sounded weirdly muffled like she cried into something. And other gossip that worried the girl. So she walked hurriedly to her mother's office and could make out a male voice of all things. As she came near the door to her mother's office, could the words spoken on the other side better. "Be you so, don't cry." Kunou opened the door fully to kick the guy's ass who dared to make her mother cry, but stopped, shocked at what she saw. "Mom? Who is this and why is he hugging you like that?" Uh-oh, thought Naruto, and he chanced to glance at the reflection of the window to see a young girl who looked startlingly similar to the woman in his arms, and let's not forget the fox ears on top of her head and the 3 fox tails that swished aggravated behind her. He let go of Yasaka and turned slowly to the girl who was obviously his daughter. He grinned uneasily and "Hi. My nod, you shut up. Who do you think you are, hugging a married woman? And my mother at that. And you, Mom. I thought you loved Dad. Even after he left us. Was it not you who said you would never cheat on Dad? Ugh. I can't believe you." And with that, the furious teenager stormed out of the room to cool down. Meanwhile, Naruto looked at his slightly raised hand to Yasaka, who stood there, too shocked to speak, then back at his hand. He dropped his hand slowly and hung his head and with a sigh spoke the first thing that came to his mind, "I'm the worst. Dad. Ever." That seemingly snapped Yasaka out of her stupor and she rushed after Kunou. "Wait, Kunou. I can explain, but not here." Naruto scratched his cheek and thought seemingly to himself. "Hey, do you think I should go after the two?" Deep inside his mind he heard a loud sigh that sounded more like a growl. "Naruto, do you really think you should ask me this? Either way, if you decide to go after your mate and kid, or wait here, let me sleep." Grumbling under his breath something that sounded suspicious like lazy, useless furball and always sleeping, lazy bastard. He followed after his wife and child. Not too hard considering the shouts of traitorous mom. And Kunou. "Stop and let me explain. Straight ahead." Maybe he should hurry up and calm them down before one of them says the wrong ugh. "Kunou. He is your father. Thing." He deadpanned in the direction of the shout. "Great going, Yasaka, now she will surely listen." For a minute or so nothing happened, and then what? That's not good. Turning around to run, he looked into 2 golden orbs as large as his entire torso and a vertical slit in the middle of the eyes as the huge orbs looked down at him with something akin to betrayal. "Why, if you're really my father, then why did you leave me and Mom? Why did you leave my mom to cry herself to sleep? Why didn't you came at least one damned time to visit me? You own goddamn daughter in over funking 15 years, why? Answer me, why?" cried the now in her 6-tailed nearly 20-foot-tall kitsune form, Kunou. Naruto said nothing, he just stood there and gave his daughter the to let go of over 15 years of neglect from him. He deserved it after all. He looked down and clenched his fists as Kunou slowly turned back to her human form. Kunou looked at her father and couldn't help but feel slightly bad for literally roaring at him like that, but not enough to apologize. Suddenly, in the same moment her mother landed slightly behind her with a disapproving gaze at her. Naruto dropped to his knees and bowed to the 2 women with his head on the ground. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but like I told your mother before you came in. I was and still am afraid. I'm nothing but a coward who hides from his family to protect them from harm. I could have stayed and protect you both here from and would have witnessed the growing up process of my daughter to the beautiful young woman currently standing before me. But I was a stupid coward and decided to protect you two, the 2 most important people in the whole universe for me. I must myself distance from you. Please. Kunou, Yasaka, forgive me." After Naruto's heartfelt apology and Yasaka's and Kunou's crying and telling him that they forgive him, they sat now on a heated katatsu to sort everything out. After all, 15 years of wondering who your father is and why he left is not finished with only one apology. They sat in silence for a while as Naruto thought of anything to say. He thought of ways to apologize again and things to do to apologize, like paying for an amusement park or something similar. It was not he who opened his mouth. Father, can you please introduce yourself? I find it irritating to not know anything about my own father. Yeah, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm probably the worst father you could wish for. I like you two and gardening. To my dislikes count power-hungry maniacs and seeing you two in danger. My hobbies include gardening and teaching my class. And my goal is to reconnect with you and your mother. The last part was mumbled quietly to himself, but the mother-daughter duo heard him anyway and couldn't help but feel joy in their hearts. Then Yasaka thought of something. He said. Wait. What do you mean your hobby is teaching your class? You're a teacher? She questioned with a raised eyebrow. Yeah. I am a teacher for history and English at the Kuoh Academy. And I do like to think I'm a pretty good teacher. He declared that so proudly that the other in the room, his wife, daughter and the maids of the first two, couldn't help but sweat drop. Wait. Kuoh Academy? Mom. Hey. I didn't know he worked there and it was your decision to go to Kuoh. I wanted you to go here somewhere to go. As the two girls argued amongst themselves. Naruto didn't know what was going on. Girls, could one of you tell me what's wrong? Girls, hey girls. They stopped arguing and looked at him. Could one of you tell me what's going on? They looked at each other and back at him, and Yasaka was the first who responded. Yes, of course dear. She smiled at him and he chuckled back nervously as he heard ugh. Gross. From Kunou. Kunou here wanted to go to Kuoh for her high school years, but we didn't know you worked there. And now she doesn't want to go anymore. Naruto raised an eyebrow. And that I work at Kuoh is a problem, why exactly? I'd be embarrassed if I knew my dad is my teacher. But here he looked slightly depressed. Nobody knows you're my daughter, hell, nobody knows I even have a daughter, and with each word he became more depressed. Yasaka moved over to Naruto and patted his with an encouraging there, it's only important that Kunou and I know she's your daughter, so don't be depressed dear. Kunou rolled her eyes at the look on her mother's face. Great, now mom is in heat. Yeah, but for how long do you think it stays a secret? But if it is any consolation for you. Now that I know you're my father, I don't think it's so bad. Oh okay, thank you my beautiful daughter. Oh shit. My work, I completely forgot tomorrow is school. He looked at his wristwatch and saw it was 4:30 in the morning. Damn it. Sorry you two, I must go now or I'm going to be late. And with that he rushed to the door. Love you too. See you later. Yasaka and Kunou sat there for a moment, motionless. Damn it. Naruto, come back here, we're not finished. Wait dad. I have still questions. But he didn't hear them anymore. Yasaka looked back at Kunou, saw her depressed and slightly fearful look and moved over to her daughter to console her better. Don't worry Kunou. This time it's not going to be 15 years. And anyways you can bond with him more in 2 weeks when you yourself go to Kuoh, okay? Okay. Good night mom, I see you tomorrow. The now tired and emotional exhausted Kunou replied. Good night my little vixen and sweet dreams. Said Yasaka as she gave her daughter a kiss on the forehead and helped her to her room. Yasaka, herself too tired to get to her own bed, made herself comfy on the couch and quickly drifted off to a dream in that Naruto never left. 1 week later. Ding dong ding. The sound of the school bell, honored by all and admired by many of the student body, is one of the few things students like to hear in their classes, and in this class where the teacher was a handsome man with spiky golden blonde hair and sky blue eyes, tried to teach you the difference between World War I and World War II is. It's nothing different as in any other class of the school campus. As the students packed their things to go to their respective clubs or home, the teacher, one Naruto Uzumaki, thought of the same things he thought the last week, every day. How are doing Kunou and Yasaka now? Sigh, probably better than me. I mean this job is so boring. Why can't anything happen here? It's like. Sensei. Never mind. Turning to the one who spoke, he replied. Yes Miss Himejima. What can I do for you? I have a question. But it has nothing to do with the class. Can I? The girl who asked the question was a very buxom brunette of about 17. Her long hair was in a long ponytail held by an orange ribbon and she had violet eyes. She wore the Kuoh Academy girls' school uniform along with black knee-high socks. Her name was Akeno Himejima and she was the Incho of her class, the 3B. Of course, but first. Is it because of the note I left you? Instantly her stance shifted subtly to a more wary stance, like she was ready for anything he could throw at her. But I sincerely doubt that. He thought wryly. Yes, sensei. Good, then ask me your questions, and after I answered them with the best of my ability, I would like you to answer a couple of questions of my own, if that is okay with you. He finished with a tilted head and a friendly smile. Akeno lowered her stance slightly, but not enough to fully relax, and offered her best smile to her anyway, unknown being. Of course sensei. But if I may. At his nod she continued. Could we go to the room of my club, the Occult Research Club, for this conversation? She didn't know what to expect from her teacher, but for him to nod encouragingly and to motion for her to lead the way was not on top of that list. Nevertheless she led the way to the old school building where her club's headquarters was and her friends waited to help subdue and if necessary exterminate this unknown being. As the duo neared the old school building, Naruto was suddenly aware of 5 other energy signatures, 7 if you counted the 2 female exorcists he could sense and wondered why he couldn't sense them before. So a magic barrier and a strong one at that if it could dull my senses like that, he heard a scoff in his mind and smiled lightly. Please. I could smell the devils from Kyoto. You're only lazy, but the exorcists are new a visit from the church. Maybe, but I doubt it. The angels and the devils are not on friendly terms. Anyway we're here. As Naruto thought that Akeno opened for him the door. Thank you. He smiled her and the girl turned around to lead him to the room with the other energy signatures in it. While Naruto followed his student, Akeno herself mused on her thoughts. What is he? Why can't I sense him, even if he's directly behind me? Is he a seraph? If we go by looks, it's possible. But why would a seraph be in devil territory? Maybe because of this so-called Holy Sword project. No, that's not possible. Uzumaki-sensei is now for over 5 years teacher at Kuoh, and the Holy Sword problem is only occurring now. Whatever, we're here Mao above. I hope he's not hostile, I really like him as a teacher. With her inner monologue finished she opened the door to the main room. A few minutes earlier. The tension between the two groups raised by the minute and while Akeno were on her way to the club room, the rest of the Occult Research Club were already there. And with them in the room were 2 young women of the church. They were both cloaked in full-body cloaks, but the hoods were down. The taller of the 2 was 16 years old serious-looking girl with chin-length blue hair, with a green fringe on the right side and dark yellow eyes. Under the white-headed cloak with gold and blue accents, she wore a black, skin-tight, short-sleeved unitard with pauldrons, matching fingerless gloves that extend to her biceps, and thigh-high boots, all of which are adorned with straps. She also wore a necklace with a holy cross around the neck. She also had a large blue sword on her back. Her partner was a girl the same age, or a year younger with long chestnut hair and violet eyes. Her hair was tied into twintails, each held with a blue scrunchie, and she wore the attire as her partner, but had a white string tied to her left arm. These 2 girls were Zenobia Quarta and Irina Shido, and were, under the orders, here to retrieve the stolen Excalibur fragments. In front of them stood the members of the Orc, except Akeno. On the forefront stood the president of the Orc, Rias Gremory. Rias was a girl of around 17 with a near-hergless figure. She had long crimson-red hair and blue-green eyes. She wore the same attire as Akeno. And was also, like Akeno, known as one of the 2 great One-Isamas. To her right stood Kaneko Taoju, and to her left were standing Issei Haidu and Asia Argento. Kaneko was a petite girl around 15 years of age with white hair and hazel eyes. The front of her hair has 2 long bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while the back has a short bob cut. She was known as the mascot of Kuoh and wore same as Rias and Akeno, but without the cape. Issei was a 16-years-old boy with the Kuoh Academy male uniform open over a red t-shirt on and white and blue sneakers. He is in the student body as the Op-I Baka, known for his openly perverted nature of the female population, especially around the chest area. Slightly hiding behind Issei was a young girl the same age as him. She was slightly more mature in body shape than Kaneko, had long golden blonde hair and large emerald green eyes that screamed innocent. Asia had on the same uniform as Kaneko and also didn't wear the cape. She stared with a bit of fear at 2 church members and they glared lightly back, causing her to flinch. In the back stood a handsome male the same age as Issei and glared heatedly at Zenobia's back. His name was Yudo Kiba and he wore the same uniform as Issei, but without the red shirt and closed. Rias could only sigh as she saw the glare Yudo threw at the sword on Zenobia's back. She knew why he did it, somewhat, but that is no reason to openly glare at guests, for now, of her territory, plus, she was still angry at him for what he did yesterday. But before she could say anything, the door opened and Akeno stepped in with an conflicted look in her eyes. Right behind her was a man she had seen on many occasions in the last 3 years of going to Kuoh Academy. Homeroom teacher for the 3B in history and English teacher for the 3rd years, Naruto Uzumaki. What he's doing here she didn't, but if Akeno's conflicted look said anything, then that this not a matter between the 2 of them. I didn't know what to expect, but a classic standoff was not my first guesses. Of course not, after all you're an idiot. Ha 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 ha. Shut up Kurama. Naruto thought, irritated with a tick mark on his forehead. Is he talking to himself in his head? thought Riaz and the others as they him silent going through a variety of emotions before he settled on a serious one as he looked at the sword on Zenovia's back. Oh. Sensei let me Durandal, an Excalibur mimic. What do you want here, exorcist? That shocked them all into silence as they looked at the only grown man in the room with disbelief. Udo looked shocked that there were more than one holy swords in the room, and Excalibur at that. Irina had her right hand on her string, ready to pull if necessary. Zenovia grabbed the handle of her sword, Durandal, to fight hers and Irina's way out if it came to blows. And the others were merely shocked because he knew Zenovia and Irina were exorcists. Okay, calm down everyone and don't look so shocked. Do you really think I could work well over 5 years in a hotspot for the supernatural and not know of it? Now girl, if you don't want to start something you can't finish you should lower your hand. Naruto stated coldly. And why should I? Don't you think it's arrogant to think you could take on both me and my partner? Zenovia replied as she began to pull out Durandal. Naruto looked at for a second before he shook his head. I warned you and I will warn you one last time. Put your sword back to where you pulled it from or I'm forced to confiscate it and mimic until I know I can trust you with them. As he said this, Zenovia looked him in the eyes and suddenly something clicked in her head and she understood that this man was on a whole other level as any other being she saw up until now. But Zenovia, if anything, was stubborn and trusted the destructive power of Swish and suddenly Durandal was not in her hand anymore but in the hand of the blonde man. When did you? She exclaimed, shocked, again. I told you do it or I confiscated and mimic. In his left hand was Durandal, point to the ground, and in his right Excalibur mimic, still in string form. Irina gasped and checked her arm. No Excalibur mimic. When did he? He's fast, scary fast. Hey you. Why are you standing in the way of God? The devils in the room flinched at the mention of God. Naruto merely looked at her with a raised eyebrow before his eyes widened and he muttered, under his breath, something along the lines they don't know it yet. And after a pause they'll be crushed if they find out now. Before he schooled his features. Naruto looked at all of them with a serious gaze. Now before this escalates any more than it already has. He stopped Irina, who was about to say something, with a hand holding Excalibur mimic. Can anyone tell me why Uzumaki-sensei? What are you doing here, exactly? If you don't mind me asking of course. Questioned Riaz with her politest tone. Naruto looked at Riaz and contemplated if he should tell her the or something else, in the end he decided for the truth. I lost a bet and I'm making sure I'm holding my side of the deal. He shrugged as the others thought, what had a lost bet to do with this? If you think what had a lost bet to do with this? I lost a bet to a certain crimson-haired Mao. But that's not the problem now, could me tell anyone what's going on, so that I can maybe even help? He asked with an easygoing smile. Riaz looked around the room to see who would take the offered hand, so to speak. Udo glared now at the hands from Uzumaki-sensei, and she could tell Udo, didn't want help from him, Uzumaki-sensei. Zenovia was still mad at him for taking Durandal from her and didn't seem to like help from him. Kaneko didn't seem to care if he helped or not, nothing new there. Issei and Asia, and surprisingly enough, Akeno and Irina looked like they would gladly take his offer. Riaz could have sworn Akeno gave a sigh of relief when Uzumaki-sensei offered his help, weird. She turned back to the teacher and nodded slowly. Okay, sensei you can help us. But first, can you tell me what the bet was you made with Lucifer-sama? Not reacting to her slip of the tongue, as he knew she was the sister of the Crimson Mao, he shrugged again. Sure, Surzicha said he knows a grown woman who acted younger as my students. Long story short, that's how I came to know Seraphol Leviathan. He finished with a sweat drop. Riaz and those who knew the antics of the current Leviathan sweat dropped as well. Anyway, because I lost a bet I had to promise Surzichas I would protect his little sister, or in his words my lovely Riaz Tan. From harm she couldn't overcome herself. The last bit was said with a pointed look at Riaz. Riaz herself sweat dropped at the look. I should have known Ani-sama would do something like that. She cleared her throat and spoke. Ahem, yes anyway. I think now would be a good time to tell you what exactly is going on, yes. At his nod she began to explain why the two exorcists were in the city and ended it with what things could happen should the orc, Naruto and the two church members work together to find the thieves of the Excalibur fragments. In the end it was decided that Udo, Issei, Irina and Naruto would look for clues on the stolen swords. While Naruto's group searched for clues. The rest of the orc and Zenovia waited for information from the others and talked about the new addition to the Excalibur retrieval team by Naruto so aptly dubbed. Who is this man and why does he think he can order me around? Began Zenovia with a scowl on her face. Akeno was the first to reply. For the why, I think it's something he learned as a teacher to do. And as to who he is, his name is Naruto Uzumaki and he's my homeroom teacher and one of the history and English teachers for the 3rd years of Kuoh Academy. But if his actions and words are anything to go by, I would say he is someone extremely powerful or at the very least extremely fast. Kaneko nodded to that. He uses chakra or at least something similar to chakra, she added quietly. Rias looked first to Akeno, then to Kaneko and said. That's very interesting, and he said he knows my brother, the current Lucifer, and Seraph-Sama, the current Leviathan, that alone let us know he has, at least in the Devil Society, important connections to the supernatural. And if my brother trusts him with my life, then I think it's safe to say he's on our side, for now at least. But before anything else could be said, they heard a familiar voice from the window, speaking to them with amusement in his voice. If you don't trust me, you could have me directly and not speak behind my back. I don't like that. They all snapped their heads to the window and saw Naruto there, sitting on the windowsill, as if nothing was wrong in the world. He continued to speak as he saw he had their attention. Hey girls, don't mind me, I'm only here to see to it that you don't kill each other. I mean, a exorcist and a couple of devils, that pretty dangerous if left unchecked. And a good way to start a joke, he snickered together with Kurama in his mind. What are you doing here? I thought you were going with Udo and Issei. Ria stopped at the look he gave her and realized suddenly at whom she shouted. Sorry sensei, but he stopped her again, but this time with his hand. I understand, you're worried for extended family. He smiled at her startled expression. But they're nothing to worry about. The boss is still with your friends. He ignored the muttering of boss. And such and continued. They made me to come here to make sure you don't do anything to each other and to inform you that they meet a priest by the name of Fried Selzen, and after he pulled out a holy sword, your knight rushed him before the boss could do anything. After boss made sure the crazy priest is away, he patched the knight back up and made me, and here I am. Now you can ask you questions. Who is the boss you're talking about? Kaneko asked. It's one of the boss's abilities, he can make corporal clones of himself. And the fewer he makes the sturdier we are, and because I'm the only one he made. Nothing short of a killing blow can dispel me. Next. Amazed such a technique exists, Ria spoke up. How is Udo? Is he alright? Yes, but from what the boss and I could see, he seems pretty obsessed with destroying holy swords. Why is that? Asked the Naruto clone. He is a survivor, the only one, of the Holy Sword Project. Oh, that damned Valper, I thought I told him if he doesn't stop it, I will kill him. Roared the Naruto clone, frightening the teenager in the process, before he calmed down and looked apologizing at the others for the outburst. Sorry, the boss has a bad past with the head of the project. Anyway, any more questions? Akeno raised her hand slowly, like in a class, and looked the clone directly in the eyes. What are you? The clone adopted a more serious look and thought of the question, and prepared to answer to the best of his abilities, while the others paid close attention, wanting to know the answer to that question themselves. As the clone and those that stayed in the Orc Club room played the Q&A game, the original Naruto and the two male devils and one female exorcist prepared to go back to the others, as Fried was very forthcoming with free info on who stole the Excalibur fragments, but were unable to do so. There was a strong energy signature approaching, fast if the rapidly growing dot on the sky was anything to go by. As the figure came into focus, Naruto was the first and only one who recognized the figure and began to growl and glare at the figure. But before the younger ones of the group could ask who that was, the figure landed in front of them and exclaimed, "Well, completely ignore the kids. Finally. I found you. Now let us settle what we started 18 years ago." In response, Naruto only growled again and turned to the kids. Go, tell the others what we found out and tell my clone to meditate. What are you doing? Go. And with that he turned to the figure that did nothing but watch. Udo, Issei and Irina looked at each other and nodded, deciding to follow the orders of the adult. They turned around and ran as fast as they could, or Issei and Irina ran as fast as they could, and Udo ran alongside the two. After about 100 meters from Naruto and the unknown figure, they felt something appear behind them. The three stopped, turned around and gaped at what they saw. 2 meters in front of them now stood a huge red square barrier that engulfed 200 square meters around Naruto and the unknown. But that wasn't what they were gaping at. No, to the huge dragon that stood now there who before the unknown figure stood. The dragon was a majestic jet black, surrounded by a black and golden aura. It was most likely a western dragon because of the also black dragon wings it had. Naruto and the huge black dragon stared at each other for a moment before they exploded into motion. Naruto blurred out of sight just as a black claw, at least double his size, slammed in the spot he stood before. He reappeared a couple of meters on the left of the dragon and his right hand out in what looked like an upturn grabbing motion, and a ball of pure energy, about as big as his head, appeared in the hand. As Naruto rushed the mythical creature in front of him, he couldn't help but curse his luck. Why now of all times? And why the hell Crom Cruach, the strongest of the evil dragons, of all goddamn things? What's wrong, Naruto? Were it not you who wailed not so long ago, in your classroom, that you wanted action? Here is your action. Wahahaha. Kurama laughed in his head. And as he jumped out of the way of Crom's tail and readied himself for a counter-strike, he mentally shouted back. Shut up, Kurama. Kunou sighed as she sat on the windowsill of her room and stared at the moon. 6 days ago, not even 2 hours after she found out he existed, her father left again and she couldn't help but want to see him again. Because, come on, her whole life she wondered just who her father was. Just as she finally found out, he was once again away and she finds herself often daydreaming of him, what he is like, his favorite food no. She knows that. Her mom began, after his visit, to cook ramen of all things. But instead of eating the admitting delicious unhealthy food she put it on the nightstand in her room to, in her words, lure my bottomless Naru-kun in my love trap. Yeah, gross. Anyway, Kunou would really like to get to know him better. And with that thought got to her bed and dreamed of Naruto Uzumaki her father. The next morning. Kunou woke up with a huge beaming smile on her face because of the dream she had. In it she was together with her parents in a haunted house. And her father screamed at everything even only distantly related to ghost that she laughed extremely loud and unladylike. But she didn't care, she laughed to the point that she woke up to her own laughter. She hoped her dad was really scared of something funny huh? Dad. I like the sound of that. That thought brought a grin onto Kunou's face. But that could wait for now she must first survive this hell. Breakfast with a kitsune mother in heat. Mom. Kunou said irritated to her mother. What? Was the stiff reply. Never mind, I'll go get it myself. Kunou said wide a sweat drop and got up to answer the call that her mother completely ignored. Yes. Who is it? Kunou. Where is Yasaka? The voice of her father on the other end drew her attention and she perked up. Dad. I mean, father. Where are you? Mom was worried about you, we know you're busy with work and everything. But calling once in a while should not be too hard, don't you think? I'm calling now, does that count? Naruto said with humor in his voice. Kunou replied with a dry tone. Haha, funny. I'm serious here, I don't know anything about you, and don't get me wrong. But I'm still a bit angry at you for 15 years of not being here. I can understand your reasons for leaving. But Mom and I are no sloughs in the strength department either, so we can protect ourselves if necessary. And I want to bond with you. You're my father after all. So can you please try to make it happen, I would really like to get to know you better, okay? She finished with a very soft voice and waited for an answer. Of course for what's worth, I'm sorry and I promise it won't happen again. I would also like to bond with you. And I know you and your mother are strong, but I don't know if it's enough. I have made many enemies, devils, fallen, angel, gods and even some dragons. But now that I know I don't want to leave you two again I'll sort out everything, or at least everything I can get sorted out. I have the feeling I shouldn't have said that. Kunou sweat dropped anyway. Can you please tell your mother, next week I want to make a picnic with you too, okay? I must hang up now. I will call again tomorrow, so make sure you ask your mother if next week is alright. Okay bye and I love you both. Peep. Again is he doing that on purpose? Sigh, bye dad. She put the phone on the table and trudged back to the dining room where her mother waited for her. She perked up as she recalled what her father said. Hey mom. Do you think we have next week time for ourselves? She questioned with an innocent voice. Yasaka looked at her daughter and took notice of the voice Kunou used. She raised her eyebrow. What's with that tone of voice? Has she planned something? Until now we were free next week. Why? Are you going to meet up with friends of yours? No. But I have something to do next week and so are you. This time Kunou smirked. So don't go planning anything else. Yasaka thought for a moment. Yeah I'm free and nothing else planned, so why not? And I really thought Naru would visit us, but he seems to be busy. That downed the mood a bit, but then Kunou remembered a question she wanted answered even before she found out the identity of her father. Hey, mom. Yes Kunou. Mustering her courage Kunou continued. How did you and dad meet? Yasaka was surprised by the question and then smiled gently at her daughter. You're really trying aren't you? What do you mean? Oh, you're so cute when you're flustered like that. But I mean I was really worried you would hate your father for what he did. I know you said you could understand his reasoning, but saying and meaning are two very different things. And 15 years of unintentionally neglect are hard to forgive. I'm not even sure if I forgave him yet. She finished her rant with a fake angry face. As Kunou saw the face and rolled her eyes. Yeah, you totally forgave him by now mom. She thought dryly and coughed for her mother to hear. Mom, my question. Oh. Right sorry. So, how Naruto and I have met him if I remember correctly it was nearly 2 years before you were born and he came literally from the sky, slammed in front of me in the ground, stood up as if nothing of importance happened and asked me if I was an angel. As Yasaka remembered her first meeting with the man she fell in love with. Kunou merely sweat dropped. That sounds corny. Haha, no not really, sure under normal circumstances it is corny. But with him it was anything but corny. Flashback, 17 years ago. Yasaka stared at the young man that literally just fell from the sky. She was so perplexed by this event, she didn't hear him ask her a question. Hey lady, are you okay? I asked you a question. The young man was just that, a young man. He looked like 19 maybe 20 years of age, he stood at a height of about 5'11 and had an athletic build. He had short spiky hair the same color as her, blue eyes like the sky he came from, and birthmarks that resembled whiskers. He wore a black long-sleeved shirt with the sleeves crumbled up to the middle of the forearms and a red band, with some sort of spiral on it, on his left sleeve. He wore also orange pants and black ankle-length sandals. Yasaka was startled out of her examining, admiring, by a bandaged hand in front of her face. Hello, anybody there? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying? The young man just looked at her weirdly for a second before he repeated his question. Are you an angel? The way he said angel was unexpected, like he wouldn't like if she said yes. Cause if you are I'm outta here. And then he narrowed his eyes and looked at her expecting. Why do you think I'm an angel? You look like that weird Gabriel chick up there. With his bandaged hand he pointed to the sky, and in that instant Yasaka knew just what angels the young man spoke of. He didn't meant it as in compliment or one of those corny pick-up lines. He meant the angels of the angel faction. That was interesting. Could he be a new angel of the angel faction and didn't like it there? Unlikely but possible. But the energy she could feel from him, it was faint, but she could definitively feel an energy similar to her chakra. You seem to dislike the angels. Why is that? I wouldn't say dislike. It's hard to dislike someone so happy, but if you're like me around them for months and they're constantly happy or smile at you like you're the most important person in their lives, then it gets a bit creepy. And I don't like creepy things, so I have to make sure you're not one of those creepy angels. That and the Michael dude wanted me to live in the human world for a while to make new friends or something like that. He lives in heaven. You live in heaven. And you're not an angel. Come to think of it, what are you? Oh yeah. Sorry about that. I completely forgot to introduce myself. My name's Naruto Uzumaki and I'm human. So, what's your name? He introduced himself and asked with a large grin. Something about that grin seemed wrong to Yasaka, like it was forced or something like that. Maybe he's uncomfortable with speaking so openly with a stranger like me. She thought and then smiled at him to tell him she's not a danger to him. Hello, Uzumaki-san. My name is Yasaka and it is nice to meet you. No need to tell him she is a yokai. Then flashback. Kunou was stunned to say the least, her father lived in heaven up until the point where he met her mother. She didn't see that coming. But something else had her also stunned. Her father is a human, but that wasn't possible or was it? Humans are said to be the weakest race. But last week, as he was here she could feel it, it was faint like one of those magicians that visited her mother a couple of years ago. As she asked her mother what this faint feeling of energy from those people were, her mother mentioned that they were hiding their power. Could her father do the same, hiding his power? Kunou thought that maybe she could ask her mother about it. But before she could open her mouth Yasaka spoke again. Oh my. Look at how fast the time flies by if we have one of our, now rare, mother-daughter moments. I'm sorry Kunou, but I must go now and you should also hurry, you have a lesson after all. We should do this again when we have time for it. If you want, I could tell you tons of other stories about your father. Yasaka smiled at her daughter, pecked her on the forehead and stood up to go to her office. Kunou stood also up to get ready for her boring lesson before she stopped. Damn, she completely forgot to tell her mother of the picnic her father planned. Meh whatever, she could always tell her later today or tomorrow or something. So with a shrug she continued to drag herself to her lesson. What the hell? Is that a dragon? Shouted a brown-haired boy as his two comrades stood outside a huge red barrier. The boy's name is Issei Haidu, and with him were his fellow devil, Yudo Kiba and exorcist, and childhood friend of Issei, Irina Shido. They couldn't believe their eyes as they watched their temporary ally and a Kuoh third-year teacher, Naruto Uzumaki, fighting against a colossal pitch-black dragon. Yudo also watched with wide eyes thinking, the speed. That's at very least ultimate devil class speed. I can't follow them. But soon after snapped out of it and turned to the other two. Issei. Irina-san. Let's go, this is probably a personal matter between the two of them. We must go and warn Ria's Butchu and the others. And we should tell his clone like he told us. Irina nodded curtly at that with a serious face, but before Issei could say his agreement his left hand and forearm were enveloped in a red light. In place of Issei's arm was now a crimson-red gauntlet with golden spikes coming out of the sides and a big green gem in the middle. The gem flashed briefly in bright green and a gruff deep voice was heard. Partner? What the hell are you still doing here? If that crazy Crom finds out you have me sealed in you, he'll go after us. And you're not ready to face a evil dragon, least of all him. Let the blonde deal with it, he seems to handle it. Now go before it's too late. Yeah, okay. Replied Issei to the sacred gear on his arm. The gauntlet flashed again and vanished. As the three ran further away from the barrier, two thoughts raced through their minds. What is an evil dragon? And just how strong is Uzumaki-san sensei? Naruto watched out of the corner of his eyes as the three teenagers began to run again. Finally. I thought they would never leave. Now how to tackle this problem? He turned back to the problem at hand, just as huge black scaled fist came flying in his direction. Dodging to the side, again, he faced his first real fight in over 4 years. Crom Cruach was excited, annoyed and bored all at once. Excited because he finally found the one who defeated him 18 years ago, and now he has finally his long overdue rematch. Annoyed because the damned being, because come on. With all that power, that blonde idiot couldn't be one of those weak humans like he claims, didn't bother to go all out against him. And bored for the same reason. But apparently he changed his mind. Crom could see Naruto was now ready to take him seriously. Taking me serious. It's about time if you ask me. I didn't come here to play dodge and block with you. The last part was roared loudly at the blonde's face. Boy. Stupid lizard, what the hell do you think you're doing? I'm busy right now. So, can we do this later? Why should I care? I searched 18 years for you. I'm not letting this chance go to waste now that I found you. Roaring again to bring his point across. Crom rushed his human-sized opponent, who dodged again, this time upwards. DCH. Crom. You have two options. 1. You let me do my thing now and we fight after this whole holy sword shit is over. Or 2. We fight now, I kick your scaly ass to the next millennia, and after that I finish this shit for the church. Pick. Your. Choice. And with those last 3 words, Naruto was again at eye level with Crom and punched him with such strength across the snout. The black dragon was lifted off his feet and with such speed sent into the barrier, the dragon could swear he saw after images of himself. Naruto himself landed softly on his feet and walked slowly in the direction of the crescent circle dragon. Meanwhile, Crom Cruach shifted back to his human form while his jaw loose in his face, he shifted it back into place and gave a pained grunt. Ouch, I forgot how hard he can hit, it seems he pissed at something, but what? At you. And don't complain because of a sore jaw, you wanted to fight. Came the annoyed reply. Sore, it's at least dislocated. I mean sorry. He protested and then apologized at the look he got. Pick your choice, do you want to continue the trashing I'm about to give you, or do you want to wait until I'm in a better mood? Crom scratched his cheek as he thought of his options. There is not really a choice, is there? No, not if you don't want me to have a good reason to kill you. Naruto said dryly. That's kind of mean, don't you think? I mean, why would you want to kill little old me? How about the promise you broke? The one where you said you would only attack me in isolated areas. But this area is isolated. Yes, after I created a Shisekimjin to protect the civilians. Okay. I'm sorry, okay, but come on. 18 years and then I sensed your signature. I had to come to challenge you. It's part of being a dragon. Naruto stared at the whining evil dragon in complete deadpan for a full minute. Sigh, alright already. Stop the whining. I'm sure you will remember it next time, right? Yes. So why were you with the Securite? I thought you didn't like the heavenly dragons. Naruto sighed again and answered. I still don't like the heavenly dragons. From what you've told me about them and their sacred gear, those assholes think they can do what they want just because they are dragons. What about their host, like Issei Haidu, the brown-haired boy you saw earlier? They don't have a choice. If the Securite and Hakurik meet, they are fated to fight. What bullshit is that? If these two asshole dragons want to fight, they don't need to use children for their over-glorified bitch fights. Anyway, as to why am I here, long story short. I lost a bee. Suddenly they both snapped their heads in the direction of Kuoh Academy. Just as a huge, but not as huge as Naruto's, barrier surrounded the school. Crom raised an eyebrow at what he sensed inside the barrier. What is that weakling Kakabeel doing here? Kakabeel? Isn't he that weird elf guy of the fallen faction with the obsession for Wa? Before Naruto finished his sentence, his eyes widened and he vanished. Crom blinked at the spot where Naruto stood not a second ago and shrugged. He started to leisurely walk in the direction he knew Naruto has vanished to. Maybe I should hang around him a little longer. Maybe I will even give the new Securite a tip or two. Nah, that's like to ask the final boss how to fight the basic monsters, and he has Naruto. He stopped at the edge of Naruto's barrier and waited for a couple of seconds for something to happen. Nothing happened. He waited a little longer. Still nothing happened. His eye twitched. Still nothing happened. He lost his patience. Oi. You can drop the barrier and dispel. Your boss isn't even here anymore. After a couple of seconds the Shisekimjin dropped down and Crom walked again. Ria's Gremory paced in the orc main room as she and the others in the room waited for info on Naruto and his group. Looking around she saw Zenobia was the only one not to worry about the other group, probably because she didn't care for the devils, disliked the teacher, and believed in the strength of her partner. Rias sighed as she saw the clone of Naruto just sitting on her couch and doing nothing at all. He was a complete mystery to her. She had so many questions at him, but he said to concentrate on more important things like the holy sword problem. Who are you really, Naruto Uzumaki? How do you know my brother? Rias questioned in her mind, but before she could ask out loud the door opened and Yudo, Issei and Arena stepped into the room. The moment Asia saw Issei in the room she rushed to check him for injuries. After confirming that Issei was alright she turned to Yudo. Hey, are you alright, Kiba-san? The clone of Uzumaki-san said you were injured during your search. She flinched a bit as Yudo turned to her. Yudo looked at Asia and smiled at the concern she showed. Yes, I am perfectly fine, but thank you for your concern, Asia-san. I'm sorry, Asia-san, but I must talk to Butchu now. He smiled again at her, but as he turned to Rias, with a suspicious side glance at the Naruto clone, his smile fell into a frown. Butchu, we have returned, but we have a problem. It's good to see you and Issei are not hurt. But what's the problem and where is Uzumaki-sensei? Exactly, that is the problem. Uzumaki-sensei stayed back to fight. Yudo trailed off at the end, not sure how to finish. Rias raised an questionable eyebrow. Yudo is normally not so hesitant to finish a sentence. But then again, the last few days he was really out of it. Uzumaki-sensei stayed to fight what? He stayed back to fight a dragon. Can you please repeat that, Yudo? I think I heard you wrong. Before Yudo could respond, the two heard the clone speak. The boss was fighting with a dragon. Crom Cruach, the crescent circle dragon and currently strongest evil dragon. But the fight is over, so don't worry. His voice was calm and his eyes closed. Because of this he couldn't see the horror on the faces of the others. What? But why is he fighting an evil dragon of all things? Especially at a time like this? Came from Akeno. Hey. I said don't worry. The boss can handle himself. And didn't you hear how I said the clone stopped as he sensed something. Reacting on instinct, he was engulfed in golden flames and with the help of the 6 golden energy arms on his back, grabbed everyone in the room as a 7th energy arm shot up to the first floor of it to grab the person he could only just now feel. And vanished just in time to avoid the huge light spear that came hurled through the ceiling of the Orc Club room. Excalibur was expecting something more as he turned the building where the devils and the 2 exorcists were hiding to rubble. Excalibur is a tall man with long black hair and red eyes. He also had pointed ears. He wore a black robe with detailed accessories and possessed 5 pairs of black wings. He frowned as the dust lowered. There on the rubble of the building he destroyed moments ago, laid the devils and exorcists he tried to kill for even thinking about hindering his plans. But that was not the reason he frowned. No, he frowned because didn't know the person standing in the middle of the group, nor could he identify the strange ability of the person, but he supposed it was not important enough for him to care. The person was seemingly coated in a golden flame with 6 arm-like extensions on his and glaring in Kakabiel's direction. It was so fast. One moment they were all in the Orc Club room, suddenly Uzumaki-sensei's clone erupted in golden flames. And in the next moment, in what felt like a teleportation spell gone wrong, they were outside sprawled on some rubble. As they all slowly and disoriented stood up, Issei said. What just happened? How did we get outside? He trailed off at the end and gaped at the back of Naruto, or his clone at least. What the hell happened to you, sensei? The others were as shocked as Issei at what they saw but didn't dare move because the energy arms that came out of the back of Naruto still surrounded them and they didn't know if the arms were dangerous or not. Before Naruto could say anything, surrounding the school completely, a barrier with a blue color sprang up and a couple of seconds later a second layer surrounded them. That's the Citri crest. Thank you, Sona, now at least the school is saved from harm. Wait. But before Rias could say anything about it, one more Naruto appeared to the right of the clone, this one without the flaming shroud. Naruto turned to the kids. Are you all alright? Nobody hurt? No, but what happened? Asked a terrified Asia. No. Gasper. Came the sudden horrified shriek from Rias, looking at the culprit of the murder of her friend to unleash her power of destruction. Rias paused and looked at the feet of the glowing blonde. There on the rubble laid a small blonde with swirly eyes and a Kuoh girl's uniform on. Rias blinked the stray tears away and with a relieved cry of Gasper, sprinted towards the girl, directly behind her equally relieved peerage, except a confused Issei and Asia. The original looked at the group as of devils as Rias engulfed the girl in a tight hug and then to his clone, nodding curtly. The clone nodded back and disappeared in a small cloud of white smoke. It seems like the guy up there destroyed your club building and my clone took you all out just before it happened. He turned to Kakabiel and glared at him. Kakabiel, I presume. Why did you do this? Kakabiel peeped an eyebrow. You presumed right, my name is Kakabiel and I'm one of the leaders of the Grigori. And who are you? As if I would tell you that. But if you answer me a question and I'm happy with the answer, I may be happy enough to tell you my name. Kakabiel's eye twitched. Why should I care for your name? In a couple of seconds you're laying dead at my feet for defying me. Naruto stared at Kakabiel and then began to laugh. Ha 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 ha. You think you ha ha ha, what a great joke. As Naruto laughed long and hard, the others stared at him like he was crazy, even Sona Citri and her peerage outside the barrier. Well, Kakabiel's eye twitched again and he began to growl. Enough. You insolent fool. I will show you that you have nothing to laugh at. Beware. The true might of the fallen angel. As Kakabiel said, the last party conjured a huge yellow spear of light 3 times bigger than the building he destroyed just now. As Kakabiel's light spear continued to grow bigger and bigger, Naruto stopped laughing and grew quiet as if contemplating his next words. Meanwhile, behind Naruto, Rias, her peerage and the 2 exorcists had terror-stricken faces at the sheer size of the light spear. But they were stupefied by the next words from Naruto. True might of the fallen angel. Okay, kids. Don't blink. I will show you now just why Surziches has such great respect for me. And with those words, Naruto again erupted in golden flames, but this time with a Haori-like coat of flames. In the same moment as Naruto transformed Kakabiel through his, by now bigger than anything else the younger ones of the group has ever seen, light spear with all his might at Naruto and the others. Naruto gazed at rapidly approaching light spear, probably as big as 2/4 of the school, before closing his eyes and whispering. Let's do this, Kurama. Inside Naruto's mind, Kurama grinned and bumped fists with a mental image of Naruto while roaring. Right, Naruto. Let's show this wannabe elf what real power looks like. Naruto opened his, now orange-red, eyes again as a translucently golden aura, in the form of a huge fox head, formed around himself. The fox head opened its maw just as the light spear would have pierced it and bit down on the light spear, causing it to shatter like glass. Behind Naruto, Rias, Sona, their peerages and the 2 exorcists had all their jaws dropped and wide-eyed eyes as they gaped at the spectacle that just happened. Kakabiel couldn't believe it. This filth. Not only came he out of nowhere and protected his trophies for the upcoming war. No, the filth also had the gall to laugh to his Kakabiel's face as he declared him, the filth, dead. And now only thing Kakabiel could do was watch as the golden spectral fox head used the light spear he created with over half of his whole power as a toothpick or a chew toy for animals or something like that. Naruto for his part was completely satisfied with himself. The downside was in this mode it was nearly impossible to not feel him. That means the near future is filled with visits from past acquaintances, great. But the face. The utterly priceless and stupid looking face that Kakabiel makes right now. PFFT, ha 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 ha. Yes, totally worth it. Grinning in triumph, Naruto poured more of Kurama's chakra out to complete the form of a gigantic golden fox with black tribal-like markings and 9 lazily flickering tails behind it. In the ends of the 9 tails seemingly floating were Rias, Akeno, Kaneko Yudo, Issei Asia, Irina, Zenobia, and the girl who Naruto assumed her name is Gasper. And before him, gaping at him in the huge head of the spectral Kurama with a terrified expression on his face, was Kakabiel. The 10-winged fallen angel himself could do nothing but look at the monster before him. The immense power that rolled off of the golden 9-tailed fox-like specter was staggering. He couldn't speak, couldn't move, hell he couldn't even think straight. The only thing that got through was what the hell? What is this monster? And after that his brain simply shut down. Naruto, Kurama and their passengers only blinked as Kakabiel dropped from the sky and landed awkwardly in a tree. X9. Did he just faint? PFFT gwahahaha, the beep just fainted, ha 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 ha. X8. Wah. The spectral fox spoke. Naruto and Kurama deadpanned it essay for the comment. Of course he spoke. Kurama is a living being after all. Hey Kurama, say hello to my students. Hello wannabe bats 1 to 7 and hello hairless monkeys 1 and 2. I'm Kurama and you'll address me as Kurama-sama or Lord Kurama and nothing else or. Before Kurama could complete his greeting, threat, his spectral form dissolved into harmless golden flames before completely vanishing back into Naruto. Sorry about that, I forgot Kurama doesn't like lifeforms other than me and his dad. Apologized on Kurama's behalf to Rias and the others. Anyway, thank you Citri-san for you and your peerage's quick thinking with the barriers. He called out to Sona and the rest of the student council. Sona Citri is a 17-years-old looking girl with short black hair in the bob style. She wears a standard-issue Kuoh Academy girl's uniform. It was my pleasure, sensei. Replied Sona Citri, unsure of what to think about all that happened in the last hour, while waving to her peerage to go home. Sensei, what was that? To emphasize her point, Rias waved in the direction of Kakabiel who hung on a tree branch. Before Naruto could answer, someone else did it for him. Someone who caused Naruto to sigh in facepalm and the others to turn in shock at the voice. That, my lovely Rias, was only the tip of the iceberg. Am I right Naruto? said a handsome seemingly young man with the same hair and eye color as Ria's and a somewhat beepy smirk on his face directed at Naruto. Naruto's eye twitched and he growled back at the other man. If you don't wipe that smirk from your face right now, I will show your sister just how much I held back against Kakabiel Surziches. The now named Surziches lost his smirk and it was replaced with a more genuine smile. Hahaha, it's good to see you again Naruto. It was too long since the last time. Yeah. Let's get this over with. Why are you here? To check on your lovely Ria's tan or because you want to speak with me? A little bit of both actually. But mainly to make sure Kakabiel didn't do too much damage to the school grounds. And also to check if young Gasper made it out of that attack alive. But obviously with you around I didn't have to worry. Naruto blinked at that. Oh yeah, apropos young Gasper, why was the kid sealed away? He asked seriously. I mean I can sense he is a vampire or at least a damper, but that's not the reason, is it? After hearing of what the two adults talked, Rias interrupted politely. I believe it would be better if I tell you the reason for that, sensei. It's a little embarrassing actually, but first, Gasper. Rias said and looked over to her shy friend. Could you introduce yourself to Uzumaki-sensei? Gasper looked like she didn't want to, but after a small smile from Rias, decided to do it. Hello. My name is Gasper Vladi. I'm a bishop of Rias Butchu's peerage. Hello Gasper. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I'm the teacher for the third-year students at Kuoh. I'm glad I sensed you on time. Naruto finished with a smile towards the shy damper. Now that he had the time he could sense the human part. Yes, thank you for that, sensei. I'm forever grateful that you could save my whole family. Anyway, the reason why Gasper was sealed was because of his sacred gear. The Forbidden Baler View. It is an extremely dangerous sacred gear with the power to manipulate the time itself, and because he tends to get overwhelmed by its power we were forced to, by his insistence, seal him in the first floor of the now destroyed old school building. Ria said looking down. They were forced to seal away a part of her family. And all just because she was too weak. Naruto saw the clenched fists and self-loathing on Ria's face and smiled a small understanding smile at her. I understand. I won't judge or question you anymore because I can see you did it to protect your family. Anyway, where was I? Oh right, Kakabiel. He looked to the tree where Kakabiel hung. He was a real disappointment. I mean really. First boasting like no tomorrow that the Will Kill and the Fallen Angel are the superior race only to faint after seeing Kurama's spectral form. Pathetic, and the only thing he damaged is my pride for letting me think I could have decent fight for a change. Surzich's sweat dropped at this. To be fair Naruto, the first time you showed me this form I had for the next few weeks nightmares about it. After all, the spectral Kurama lets out an extremely strong dose of killing intent if you want it to be. But that's the problem. I didn't even let out that much killing intent. And I didn't even go all out. I really thought as a leader of the Fallen he would put up more of a fight. Surzich's knew if he didn't change the topic this could go on for a while. So he turned to his little sister, her peerage and the two exorcists, but before he could open his mouth, Kakabiel woke up and began to gather his whole holy energy in one final attack, all the while screaming hysterical with a crazed look in his eyes. No. It's not ending here like that, you hear me, you funking human filth. I will have my war and I will show Surzich's and Michael who's the strongest race. So make your last prayers your little, but before Kakabiel could go through with his threat or even finish it, a black and gold energy beam erased the existence of the upper half of his body. The group of 11, Rias, Akeno, Yuudo, Kaneko, Issei, Asia, Gasper, Irina, Zenovia, Naruto and Surzich's, looked in the direction of the beam's origin, only to see Crom standing there, one hand, palm outstretched, facing to where Kakabiel previously stood while he cleaned his ear with his other hand. Too damn noisy. He said with clear annoyance in his voice. The orc tensed and make themselves ready to fight. Zenovia and Irina tensed too and had their hands on their respective weapons. But paused as they saw that Crom had the stolen Excalibur fragments wrapped up laying at his side. Surzich's narrowed his eyes and wondered what the crescent circle dragon was doing here. Naruto merely blinked at the dragon. Huh? You're still here? I thought you left already. Then he blinked at the bundle at Crom's side. Are they the? Yes, I was bored so I used the time you talked with Surzich's to take a walk around the town, but this crazy old man and his little funk buddy thought I was easy picking to test out their new toys. Crom Cruach gestured first the half-dead bodies of Fried Selzen and Valper Galilei and then to the bundle at his side. Naruto stared at the unconscious Fried and Valper and then started to slowly walk over to them. Crom saw the look on Naruto's face, gulped and took several large steps back. The others, due to being behind Naruto, couldn't see the face of the blonde teacher and were confused as Crom practically backpedaled away from Naruto. Fried Selzen awoke from his slumber to the feeling of unimaginable dread. When did he fell asleep? The more important question was, where was this unbearable feeling coming from? He looked up at the sound of someone coming to a halt directly behind him. Turning around he froze as he found the source of this unbearable dread. It was the shitty human that was with the shitty devils a couple of hours prior, he didn't know why, but as he looked in the eyes of the shitty devil lover he could swear he saw the form of a titanic red-orange fox, with 9 tails and huge rabbit-like ears, crouching behind the shitty devil lover and grinning predatory at him. Breed gulped but relaxed slightly as he saw the eyes of the shitty human were not on him, he looked where the blonde looked and saw the shitty old man cowering as he shit his pants. "Didn't I tell you to break up that damned holy sword project, Valper? And now I hear you didn't do it. Didn't I say what would happen if you don't do it? No, I'm pretty sure I said what I would do to you. Hell, I even promised I would kill you myself if you don't stop that damned project. And I will tell you something you really don't want to hear. I always keep my promises. So, Valper, any last words?" Naruto looked coldly at Valper as the old man grew with every word that Naruto spoke more and more terrified. Please mercy. I had to do it. God ordered me to do it." Valper pleaded, stuttering as if he sat naked on the North Pole. Naruto beeped a narrowed eyebrow. "Mercy? Like you gave those children in your project mercy when they pleaded with you to let it stop. This mercy, the last part was roared in Valper's face due to how mad he was. The audacity of this man. Unbelievable. Begging for mercy Valper himself was too arrogant to give. No, he wouldn't get mercy. Not this how innocent children died because Naruto gave the man mercy the first time he found out something so sickening cruel like the Holy Sword Project existed. Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Inside his mind Naruto stood before the only being from his home dimension, other than him of course, that came with him here to this new dimension. His best friend and long-term partner Kurama. Naruto stared at Kurama with a calm but still angry gaze. "Open the seal, Kurama." Kurama stared back at Naruto with an unreadable gaze. "Are you really sure? You know what could happen should the wrong people discover your family after what you're about to do?" "I know, but I'm done with hiding. If anyone wants to hurt either Yasaka or Kunou, they must go through me at full power first. If anything, what is about to happen should have happened years ago. I'm ready now, Kurama. Before I was too frightened to be with my wife or daughter in fear of losing them, but not anymore. From now on I will protect them with everything I have. If necessary, through complete annihilation of the offenders. I'm not going to lose them, not this time, not like Hinata and Bolt. So please, Kurama, open the seal." "But why for him? Why do you want to use it of all things on him?" "For 2 reasons actually. 1, he is a despicable example for a human being that needs to be completely erased, lest someone like Orochimaru comes along and uses the remaining cells for sick experiments. And 2, as warning for all who wish to harm my family. If anyone should try it, I want them to know that I do not beat around the bush. And I won't hold back." Kurama stared at Naruto for a moment longer, and Naruto stared back with an unwavering grim determination in his eyes, and the titanic fox couldn't help but smile at what he saw. "Sigh, very well, but try to minimize the energy output. And Naruto, it's good to have you back again." And with a huge grin Kurama released the seal that held Naruto's strongest power up at bay. A 6-path sage mode, or as Naruto and Kurama like to call it nowadays, Asura's blessing. Naruto grinned slightly back and replied. "It's good to be back, Kurama, it's good to be back." After Naruto said that, he started to slowly fade away from his mindscape. Like he said to Kurama. He couldn't allow even a single cell of this monster in a human's hide remain past this day. And with that thought in mind he opened his eyes again. Time seemed to stop the moment he opened his eyes again. All over the world every single being stopped what they were doing and dropped to their knees from the aura that washed over them. The man in his 30s, with red and blue hair and eyes, looked up from the progress report of some of his subordinates and turned in the direction of Japan. "Huh. It's a while since I've felt an energy like that." After a moment of pondering if he should investigate whom the energy belongs to, Mephistopheles decided against it. After all, not his problem if someone was stupid enough to piss off a being of such a caliber. In the underworld every being paused in mid-action and drew shaky breath to try and control their fear of the overwhelming aura of power that washed over the lands like a tidal wave. Zekrom Bale narrowed his eyes and wiped the sweat from his face as he looked out of the window of his study. What was that? In heaven the angels dropped to the ground and cried for God to protect them. Michael, a handsome young-looking man with long blonde hair and green eyes, shot up from his seated position and wiped the sweat away that formed on his face. This aura. Whoever brought the wrath of him on themself, I pray you're ready to face the consequences. He thought as the energy wave washed over him and heaven itself. In a room with nothing but a simple bed in it. A little girl with long black hair and gothic Lolita-themed outfit, seemingly sleeping, snapped her dark gray eyes open. Why now? Offa said to herself with narrowed eyes as a couple of sweat droplets formed on her forehead. In a dark chamber in an undisclosed location, a tall good-looking man watched with interest as his subordinates fell to the floor after the aura washed over them, gasping for breath or sweating profusely. Interesting, who would have thought that such a strong being existed? So preoccupied with his own thoughts, Rizavum Live and Lucifer never noticed the sweat that formed on his own forehead or his slightly heavier breathing. In a cluster of chaotic clashing energies known as the Dimensional Gap, a huge red dragon with a length of about 100 meters stopped his flying as it felt the energy wave. Huh? The punk still lives. I hope he don't get the idea to come here again. The dragon narrowed its eyes and shuddered a bit. I really hope he don't get the idea to come to me. In Kyoto, Yasaka fell for shock out of her chair and looked worried in the direction where she knew Naruto was. Naruto, what happened? Kunou was startled out of the reading of one of her favorite books, The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi, now more than ever after learning this is the book from her father, by the energy wave that washed through her. Strangely enough, she didn't feel any different or frightened by it, but protected, like if she ever found herself in a situation she couldn't handle, it would help her. 1 week and then I will see you again, Dad. Kunou thought to herself as she continued to read how the main character told his foe to give up the hope of him ever giving up. In the epicenter of the energy waves stood Naruto, now donning a golden glowing jacket over black full-body jumpsuit and similarly golden glowing boots. In his left hand he held a monk's staff in a dull seemingly light-absorbing black color. Behind him, hovering in a perfect circle around his body, were 9 balls, the same black color as the staff, and his hair was also glowing with 2 strands spiked up to look like horns. Crom and Naruto dropped both to one knee and wiped the sweat of their foreheads. Rias and her group, 2 female exorcists included, laid on the ground on the brink of unconscious and could only think one thing. This is unreal. With that much power he could be the strongest being in existence. And other related thoughts. Freed was unconscious, so he had no thoughts, and Valper by some miracle still awake but petrified at the sight of the being before him. Valper, Galilee, you're not worth to exist in this world. What you did to innocent people is unforgivable. I really didn't want to this, but you left me no choice. Pray that you don't meet the souls of the children you tortured in the afterlife. And with that, Naruto beheaded Valper and erased his existence with his truth-seeking balls. Naruto turned to the others and saw horrified faces from them all, excluding Crom and Naruto. He sighed as he let his 6-path mode fade away. I'm sorry you all had to watch this. But for what he did to all those innocent children he needed to die, and with a deep bow Naruto turned around to go home. Maybe I could make a surprise visit by Yasaka and Kunou. Yes, that sounds like a good idea. I need a change of view after that whole holy sword debacle. And what better way to up my mood than visiting my wife and daughter? Wait, sensei. What was that? How can you be so strong? All eyes turned to Akeno after her outburst. I mean, can you please tell us what you did just now, sensei? Akeno bowed as possible to hide her embarrassed blush. Naruto stopped walking but didn't turn around. After a minute of only standing there, he turned to look at Akeno and raised an intrigued eyebrows. Are you worried about me? Caught off guard with the counter question, Akeno stumbled over her words but nodded rapidly. Yes. I mean, yes, you're one of the most understanding and nicest person I know of, and the way you talk in our class about killing and war, one know you hate killing, so it must be hard for you to do it. So I think I speak for everyone here when I say. That man was a monster to humanity, and it was the right decision to erase him from existence. Everyone in the vicinity, even Crom, and especially Udo, nodded at that. Thank you. Bowing again, Naruto smiled at Akeno and the others. But you didn't have to worry. I'm completely alright. That was not my first kill, and sadly I know it won't be my last. But it warms my heart as a teacher and a human being that my students are such kind people. Akeno spoke again before anyone else could say anything. Then you don't have to go away. You can continue to teach us. You don't have to retire. Naruto looked shocked, like all the others in hearing range, excluding Crom. He couldn't care less what job Naruto had, but then it turned to a sheepish look. Wait. It's about that. I knew I shouldn't have left the letter on my desk after I decided against it. He finished with a sweat drop. You decided against it? Does that mean you don't quite being our teacher? I was worried for nothing, Akeno shouted and was about to shock Naruto with one of her lightning strikes, consequences be damned. For worrying her needlessly as Naruto spoke again. Oh no. I admit I thought about it, but before I could do I heard of something that changed my mind. Sheepishly rubbing his neck at the looks he got. This time it was Kaneko who broke the silence first. What did you hear, sensei? My daughter comes to the school, and after she heard I work there she seemed so happy that I couldn't possibly take away that happiness by quitting my job. As he finished he looked at the reactions of the others. Crom and Naruto quickly understood what that meant when he said so open that he had a daughter who was coming here. Naruto wondered who the mother was and why Naruto never mentioned either one or both. Crom merely promised himself in his head to never do anything to her if he wanted to continue living. Actually, now that I think about it, she should be in the same year as you, Kaneko-san. She's 15 after all. That shocked the Kuoh students, especially the third years, because he never before mentioned a daughter. Wait, you have 15 years old daughter, why didn't we hear of that before? Questioned Akeno and Rias together. At the question, Naruto's sheepish smile was replaced with a sad frown. Because I was a coward and didn't want to risk her or her mother's lives. That confused the younger and/or naive members of the group, but the rest gained also frowns. Asia, one of the naive members, hesitantly raised her hand and eeped as Naruto turned to her. Ayano, I don't understand. Is it not kind of you to wish your family out of harm's ways? It's not that easy. You all saw what I can do. When it became known I have a daughter with the potential to unlock the same or at least similar abilities as mine, she would be hunted down from all directions. Devils, at that Surziches couldn't help but sadly nod. Fallen angels, and now that the biblical god is gone, even Rigu should. Naruto cursed himself for his loose mouth as Surziches and Crom facepalmed. What X8? The biblical god is gone, the younger devils minus Asia, due to her being unable to speak from the shock. Irina quickly shouted in denial. That can't be possible. Our lord can't die. The lord is gone, but since when? Questioned Zenobia. Damn it. Me and my big mouth. Cursed Naruto again before they all heard an angelic voice. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Do not blame yourself, Naruto-san. I am sure if not for you Kakebiel would have told them anyway. Spoke a handsome man with long blonde hair, a golden halo of light over his head, and a long red, white and gold robe on. He looked at all of them with a smile that gave Naruto an twitching eye and shining seemingly permanent sad-looking green eyes. The exorcists in the group immediately bowed to their superior and leader. Michael-sama. Irina. Lord Michael. Zenobia. Michael smiled one of his gentle smiles and gestured for them to stand up. You do not need to bow to me, Irina-chan. Zenobia-chan. If anyone should be bowing, it is me. I'm sorry for ordering the two of you to go on such a dangerous mission alone. Then Michael turned to Naruto, who barely controlled the twitch in his eye at the smile he got. And it is good to see you again, Naruto-kun, and if it is not too much trouble, could you please stay a little longer? I wish to speak with you. Michael finished with a grand but still gentle smile. So alright, I'll stay, but not too long. I want to visit you, I mean my wife and daughter. Naruto finished nervously as he glanced to the side. Michael smiled again at Naruto, and the twitch came back with a vengeance. I understand, and I will try to not hold you for too long away from your family. But first I should tell the younger generation here the truth about father. It is the least I can do after what you all went through. Michael then turned to the two only people he didn't address yet. But he faltered slightly. Crom Cruach-san, it is an honor to meet you. Wow, I didn't know you knew my name. Why so formal? A friend of Naruto is a friend of mine after all. Said a grinning Crom, and Naruto looked at him weirdly. Since when are we friends? Crom grabbed his chest with a hurt look. Guh. That hurts, Naruto. Right here in the heart, you know. You're so cruel to me. First you ignore my challenges for friendly spars for almost 20 years, and when I finally found you, one of my very few friends, and now you're saying we're not friends. I am ashamed of myself for ever calling you one of my most trusted friends. Right. Replied Naruto with a large sweat drop. Crom let go of his chest and coughed into his hand. Right anyway. Michael, as long as you promise me the same, I promise you to never attack you without reason. Do we have a deal? The grin on Crom's face unnerved Michael. But he reluctantly agreed anyways. Wait. Didn't you give me the same promise after our first fight? No. The promise I gave you was that I was only allowed to attack you in isolated areas in exchange you don't kill me with one of your many power-ups. Oh right, how could I forget that? Came the sarcastic reply. That's simple. You're the dumb bronze, and I am the handsome, sexy and the incredible smart and strong brains of our friendship. Okay Crom, if you're so incredible smart and strong, then answer me one question. Why should I not kill you on the spot for endangering civilians with your stunt earlier if you never forgot your promise about the isolated areas? Crom gulped at the serious unforgiving look Naruto shot at him. Because you don't like killing and we're friends. He gulped again as Naruto continued to stare at him and sighed in relief as Naruto merely also sighed and his head slowly shook. Fair enough for now. All bickered over their friendship, the devils still had their attention on the leader of heaven. The younger devils were tense, how could they not? Before them stood the leader of a faction who is normally their enemy. Surziches, the only devil not tense, was walking towards Michael with a calm smile and greeted him with a handshake. Hello Michael Dono, it's an honor to see you again. Surziches Dono, the pleasure is all mine. I am elated that this time it is under better circumstances than the last time. But I am curious as to why you are here. I was under the belief you would be busy. Oh, I am. But after the attack on my precious sister, I had to make sure she's unharmed. Michael Dono, did Azazel-san speak to you yet about the meeting he planned? He told me he speak to you about a possible alliance between the biblical factions. Michael looked, if possible, even more elated after hearing that. Azazel wants to propose an alliance between our factions. This is great. I myself hope to speak to you and Azazel about an alliance, but did not know how to approach the two of you about it. But Azazel was never one to shy away from such things as politics. Riaz stood behind Surziches and thought about what was said. An alliance between the three biblical factions. Is that really possible after all this fighting since the Great War? Nevertheless, she asked her brother a question of her own. Niam, I mean Lucifer-sama. Riaz Tyan. I was so worried about you. Are you alright? Did Kakabiel hurt you anywhere? No. I'm alright. But I have a question. Why did you make Uzumaki-sensei promise to look after me? And do you even know him? Surziches looked to Naruto for a second as if to ask for permission, who shrugged uncaringly at the look before turning back to Riaz. Because I don't want you get hurt, I knew I can trust him to keep you safe, and he's one of the strongest beings I know of, so it was an easy decision to ask him. But as to why I know him, that's a story for other time. For now there are more important things to think about. Fine, but I want to know how it happened eventually. Lord Michael. Yes, Zenobia-chan. What can I do for you? Asks Michael with a sad knowing smile. Is it true that our lord is gone? Zenobia asks with a devastated look on her face. Yes, and I am sorry. I wish it were not, I really do. But in the great war between the different factions, he was not only fighting for all his children, but had also the burden of sealing a great beast away, and after the sealing, he was too weak to fight off the combined might of the previous Mao. Though he did weaken them enough to let Surziches Dono and the other current Mao finish them off in their civil war nearly 10 years later. I am sorry, Lord Michael. I don't think I can get over this. I mean no disrespect to the Lord's sacrifice, but I don't think I have enough faith to return to the church, Zenobia mumbled while looking to the ground, therefore missing the understanding yet sad smile that Michael gave her. Irina on the other hand was not so understanding and voiced her thoughts. What do you mean you can't return to the church? You can't be serious, Zenobia. This is only one of the many trials our Lord gave us to test the strength of our faith and won't let you. That's enough. Just as Michael was about to come to Zenobia's defense, somebody else did it, and that somebody was none other as one Naruto Uzumaki. Irina-san, right? Irina remained silent because she was still angry at Zenobia for wanting to abandon the church, so he continued. You can't force Zenobia-san to stay at the church if she doesn't want to stay there. It's her choice what she does and what not. And if you're really her friend, you should not only respect her choice but support her. Irina was silent as she thought over what Naruto said and then nodded quietly. Zenobia turned to the man who unintentionally gave her the reason to leave the church and bowed. Thank you, Lord Naruto. Why are you bowing? And don't call me Lord. But is it in Japanese culture not normal to bow in thanks, Lord Naruto? Completely ignoring what Naruto said about calling him a lord, Zenobia looked up at him with a confused expression. Nevertheless. I don't like formalities. And didn't I say to not call me Lord? I understand, Lord Naruto. I'm sorry and it won't happen again, Lord Naruto. Zenobia stated seriously with a salute. Naruto was about to tell her again to not call him Lord when he stopped and deadpanned at Zenobia. This is because I take your sword, isn't it? Zenobia continued to salute to Naruto and spoke with a perfect monotonous voice. Of course not, Lord Naruto. Naruto twitched, but before he could say anything Zenobia spoke again as she eased herself out of her salute. Lord Naruto. Naruto looked at Zenobia annoyed and then shook his head. Sigh, what is it? Zenobia looked embarrassed to the ground and mumbled something. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you speak a little louder? If it's not too much trouble, could I come with you? What? Why Ahem? Why would you want that? Naruto asked, shocked, and the others that heard Zenobia looked equally shocked. Because I don't know where to go now that I'm no longer affiliated with the church. And you remind me of my father, so I thought it would be okay. But if I asked to before Zenobia could finish to apologize for asking, she was stopped by Naruto. No. I don't mean it like that. But why do you think I would? You think I was a good choice to ask? Asked a confused Naruto. Because I want to go to Kuoh, and as the only adult around that lives here, I thought it was oblivious to ask you first. Oh wait. Why Kuoh? Wouldn't it be better to go to the same school back at your home country? What about your friends and family? I don't have any family left, and my only friend is Irina, and I think Kiba-san and the others could be some. That's if they want to be, of course. Okay. But I have a condition, said Naruto seriously. He could understand Zenobia's desire to go to Kuoh. If really the only friend she had was Irina, it would be difficult to stay in contact with her after Zenobia just left the church. And with nobody else but the acquaintances she made for the short duration of her mission here, he couldn't blame her for wanting to stay. And it's true to ask one of the adults first if it is alright to stay with them. But the thing she said earlier about him and her father, he didn't know if it was a good idea. He wasn't a good father to his own blood-related daughter, how to do it with an almost complete stranger. And if the suspicious glint in the stupid Archangel Michael eyes was anything to go by, he just knew there would be at least a guardianship involved. So alright, you can stay with me for a while. But you're going to help me with the housework and anything else I should ask of you, without complaints about it. Zenovia brightened up immediately and smiled truly for the first time since she lost her father to a group of rogue exorcists, and she bowed again, much to Naruto's annoyance. Thank you Lord Naruto. Naruto's eyebrow began to twitch. Yes Lord Naruto, his eyebrow twitched harder, and I promise I won't be a bother. I have the feeling that's exactly what will happen, Naruto grumbled to himself, and thankfully no one heard him. Hahaha. Sucks to be the nice guy all the time, doesn't it Naruto? Hahaha. Except Kurama. You should try it sometimes, you know. It could be a good experience for you. Replied Naruto dryly in his mind. No thanks. I have better things to do, like napping for example. Yawned Kurama back. Lazy ball of fur. Meh, whatever. Wake me if something interesting happens zzz. Naruto's eye twitched. TCH. Stupid lazy fleabag. 1 hour ago. Yasaka and Kunou were in Kunou's room to pack her stuff. 2 hours ago Naruto called them and said if she wants she could move to his house for her upcoming school time at Kuoh Academy. Of course Yasaka said immediately yes and Kunou didn't have anything against it was a good way to bond with her dad if she lived with him. Hey mom. Yes my little vixen. Kunou sighed at the nickname but was used to it so she continued. Is it really okay to leave you here alone? I mean I know you have to keep an eye on the ley lines and whatnot. But can't you do that from Kuoh? You explained to me that as long as you connected to them you can be anywhere. So why not go with us so we can be for once an actual family and not blood-related people that keep away from one another like dad did for the past 15 years, she asked her mother and whispered the last part to herself. Yasaka looked to Kunou and saw the subtle hurt and angry expression on her daughter's face. She sighed. Kunou you know, he was only worried for your well-being. I don't know if you sensed it, but that energy spike 3 days ago was his doing. I don't know what compelled or forced him to release it, but I know what it means want to know. She asked her troubled daughter who nodded slightly and she finished with a motherly smile on her face. It means it won't happen again. You don't have to worry about him leaving again, okay sweetie? Kunou herself was deep in thought and only nodded again. That was dad. Then was this the reason I felt safe as the wave washed over me? But wasn't he in Kuoh as the wave happened? That means I could feel him all the way from Kuoh to here. Wow Kunou grinned I knew it. He is really strong. Yasaka was about to continue, but a knock on the door grabbed hers and Kunou's attention. Excuse me Yasaka-sama, Kunou-sama. But you have visitors in the living room. Plural. Is one of the visitors a blonde man? Yes and his companion has blue hair with a green fringe. Okay thank you Yuki. Can you prepare a can of tea for our guests? Immediately Yasaka-sama. And with her new orders Yuki bowed before turning around and leaving the room. As Yasaka and Kunou entered the living room, Yasaka stopped cold in her tracks. Naruto who is that? She asked a little colder than usual. Calm down, Yasaka. You don't know this girl that is currently sitting far too close to be one of his students. Hey Yasaka-chan. You mean her? Naruto nodded to Zenovia at his side. Her name is Zenovia and you could say I'm now her legal guardian. He finished Zenovia's introduction with a sweat drop while she sat with a stoic face at his side. It's an honor to meet the leader of the Yokai faction, Lady Yasaka. Yasaka and Kunou were both shocked at what Naruto said. What do you mean, her legal guardian? I mean she lives with me till she finds a place of her own. Anyway, Kunou are you ready? Kunou looked at him like he grew a second head before slowly shaking her head. You mean to tell me, you had the entire time that you weren't here for mom or me, you had some random girl living by you? Is that the reason why you didn't even visit once? Why you weren't there for me? Your own blood-related daughter, that's it mom I'm not going to Kuoh if I have to see his face there every day. Kunou looked livid as she stomped out of the room. Wait Kunou? That's not the reason. But Kunou wasn't in the room anymore. Naruto slumped back in his seat. Damn it I am so stupid. Why can't I make anything right for once? As Naruto got angry at himself for all the stupid things he did to his daughter, Zenovia looked stunned at the door where Kunou left from. Is this my fault? That asshole. Who does he think he is? What does this girl have that I don't? TCH. I don't care anymore. If he thinks he can do what he wants, then fine. Do what thought Kunou furious, looking angry at the floor, but stopped she saw 2 feet she knew belonged to her father. What do you want? She growled without looking up. Kunou, my dog. No. You don't have the right to call me your daughter. You lost the right for that the moment when you know. Actually you lost the right to call me that when you decided to leave mom as she was pregnant with me. I don't care what you think is your family, and honestly I don't give a damn for anything you want to say. Get out of my mother's house. Get out. Get out. Get the hell out. Kunou began to cry hysterical. She struggled as two strong arms wrapped around her, and after a couple minutes of futile escape attempts, her dam broke. She ceased her struggles and instead pounded with her fists on Naruto's chest. She cried even harder than before and shouted, "Why? Why did you leave me and mom alone? Why?" And other things in his face, over and over again, as she completely broke down. All the while Naruto only hugged her. In his face his own tears as he apologized repeatedly for his unforgivable and stupid actions. Yasaka stood a little behind the father and daughter duo and teared up herself. "Oh. I didn't know you buried that much anger for your father and you damned it Naruto, and this is the reason you don't leave family behind, for anything." She was about to try to help her husband with consoling there when she heard the shuffling of feet behind her and turned around. "I'm sorry, this all happened only because I forced myself on your husband with the living arrangements. Please do not be mad at Lord Naruto. He only agreed because I had nowhere else to go. I will do anything to apologize for my actions," stated Zenovia quietly with a deep bow. Yasaka looked at the bowing girl in front of her. "You know. As I saw you so close to Naruto earlier, I wanted nothing more than to roast you alive with my foxfire." Zenovia flinched, but Yasaka ignored it and continued. "But now I'm glad I didn't do it. Not because I don't want to mind you. You sat far too close to him for just his border. No, I'm glad I didn't do it because I knew he had a good reason for you to stay with him. He gets like that from time to time, always willing to help others, even if it means trouble for him. You're probably a nice girl, and some things are unavoidable, like him helping you out in your time of need. But that was no reason for you to come along with him. This was and still is a family matter. So please just go out for a while so I can try to make things right between the two." And with that Yasaka turned back to Naruto and the from exhaustion, sleeping Kunou to do what she just said. Zenovia stiffly stood up and followed the cold-looking woman, who led Naruto and her in earlier, to the house entrance. "Sama, you have Yasaka-sama's permission to wait outside or look around the city. But please refrain from causing trouble. If you do, I'm entitled to force you to surrender. Understood?" stated Yuki coldly as she stared at the guest of her master. Zenovia just nodded slowly and walked towards the city. "Understood." Yasaka sighed and looked from the papers to Naruto. "You know, she was really hoping to live together with you for the duration of her time there. And then you pull something like that." She sighed again while looking at the information on the guardianship. Previously living arrangements. Lived before the request of guardianship in an orphanage near the Vatican. Does that mean she's a… Yeah, Zenovia is a former exorcist. And for the record, Michael forced the stupid papers on me, I didn't request anything. Next educational steps to ensure a successful future career. Enrollment as a second-year high school student in the Japanese border school Kuoh Academy. The guardian is a teacher at the school and can ensure the child has a proper education. Okay, at least you can make sure she doesn't end up as a hobo or something. That's good. Yeah, that's the reason I accepted in the first place. She had not many friends in her home, from what she told me there were only her fellow exorcist by the name of Irina Shido. Her father died when she was 5 and after that she became outwardly cold. And that's not really a recipe for many, if at all, friends. Oh, I thought she only didn't want to be with her family and… Naruto looked at Yasaka with a raised eyebrow. And I was angry at her for interfering with one of our first family moments. Yasaka, I know both of you still are angry at me. Hell, Kunou showed me earlier just how much she bottled up. And I know I failed you both, epically. And I have no right to ask this of your Kunou. But please try to bear with it for a while longer. I'm really trying my hardest. But the last time I had something like I have now with you two, I lost everything I loved and I couldn't bear the pain of losing all that again. I did the stupidest thing I ever did. I ran away from you both, my family, and I regretted it ever since. But 3 days ago I resolved to change that, plucked up my courage, and now here I am, willing to do anything to make us a family again. Yasaka knew she would hear something like that from Naruto, but still was shocked as he got to his knees before her, as if to atone for a sin. But before she could say anything, someone else did. Are you really willing to do anything so we can be a family? Both adults looked at the door where Kunou stood, arms crossed and a frown on her face. Yes. I love you both too much to lose you because I made stupid decisions again. Okay then, tell me why you left us in the first place. Huh? You know that. Why? No. I mean, tell me what gave you the great idea to think leaving us behind was the best way to protect us. Okay, the reason I thought it was best if I distance myself from you was you're not my first child and Yasaka was not my first wife, but you're my only living child. Kunou looked stunned at that. She thought he would say something like I have an enemy who's stronger than me or so. But not you're my only living child. She looked to her mom, only to find she had a sad look on her face. Naruto had his head bowed as he continued. 22 years ago, I had a lovely wife by the name of Hinata, and she was pregnant in the late 7th month with our child, a boy we wanted to name Boruto or for short, Bolt. My best friend, a man named Sasuke Uchiha, and I had an argument over the peace we created in our lands. I really thought I pounded it out of him at the end of our last fight, but he still wanted to ensure peace through force. I was newly crowned Hokage, that's the title for the leader of my home village, and tried to resolve this between the two of us, but he wouldn't hear what I have to say. He only wanted me to hand over the Hokage title. I said no, and after a while of our continued argument, he left without a trace. 2 weeks later, and after almost civil war over our argument, we stood before one another to battle again. He gave a hollow laugh and wiped the tears of his face. You know what's funny? As the old saying goes, history repeats itself. That's exactly what happened. Like our ancestors fought over their different ideals, so fought we for our own ways of peace, and after nearly killing each other more times than I can remember, we stood both on our last leg. Of course our fight didn't end there. Just as we were about to clash with our trademark attacks, we were interrupted. My wife, now heavily pregnant, came to try to stop us from killing each other. That was probably the opportunity he waited for. While I was distracted with the arrival of the woman I loved, he readied his sword and signature technique, a lightning attack capable of cutting a lightning bolt, the Rikiri. Before I could react, he rushed forward and grabbed my wife as a hostage. Here Naruto stopped for a moment to collect himself and, ignoring his daughter who now alongside his wife cried, continued the story of how he lost his first family. With his sword on her throat and the Rikiri on the back of her stomach, he demanded one more time for me to see it his way. Flashback 22 years ago. In a desolated and completely destroyed landscape stood 3 people, 2 near each other and the last circa 20 meters away from the other 2. Behind a woman of about 21 with dark blue hair and featureless wide eyes stood a man. The man was of the same age as the woman and a good head taller. He had onyx black hair and heterochromatic eyes. The right eye had a red 6-sided star in it, with a 3-pointed black shuriken shape in the middle of the star, while the whole left eye was of a metallic purple-gray color, with a ripple-like pattern, and 6 tomos on the 2 innermost ripple. At one point he wore a tan overcoat, but that got in the fight destroyed, and wore dark pants. His name was Sasuke Uchiha. The reason he stood, weapons ready, behind the woman was simple. This was Kunou Uzumaki, formerly Hiya, and she is the wife of the man who stood in the way for his ideal peace. And she was now his bargaining tool. Naruto, you have one last chance. Don't interfere with my peace or Hinata and your unborn child die. Naruto stopped cold at what Sasuke said. Sasuke. You can't be serious. Are you really willing to go this far just for our argument? Sasuke narrowed his eyes. You don't understand, Naruto. This is not because of some argument we had. This is for lasting peace. And I can't have you interfere. So choose. Your family or you. What do you mean my family or I? Think about it. It's simple, really. I know you, and because I know you, I know also you would never only stand by while I establish my lasting peace. So you have 2 choices. 1. You vanish and Hinata and your child live. Or 2. You continue fighting and you leave me no other choice than to break you emotionally and then I kill you. Are you really that far gone that you have to kill my wife and child just so you can kill me? You're insane, Sasuke. Let Hinata go and let us end this stupid arguing. Please. Sasuke looked at Naruto for a while and then sighed. Is that your answer? Yes. Can't you see this whole thing is stupid? We are having peace right now. Why would you want to change that? Sasuke appeared to think over Naruto's words, then sighed before replying with, so be it, Naruto. You made your choice, and with that he pushed his Rikiri forwards and his sword sideways. All the while he concentrated his power in his left eye. Naruto's eyes widened and he rushed forwards. No. Hinata. Sasuke closed his right eye and sighed sadly. Goodbye, Naruto Amenetejikara. As Naruto heard those last words, his eyes widened again and he tried to avoid the gaze of Sasuke, but he reacted too late and suddenly found himself floating in an indescribable dimension of never-ending multiple colors. Naruto looked slowly around and saw in all directions nothing but multiple colors. He bowed his head and began to shake and flicker with golden flames. His head snapped up and he roared in anguish the same moment as a pillar of golden flame-like energy exploded from him. Kuoh. Hiya. Flashback end. And 2 days later I was found passed out in the dimensional gap and was brought to heaven by Michael. For the next 2 years they helped get better. While Naruto recalled one of the most traumatic events of his life, Yasaka and Kunou rushed to him to console him. But he stopped them. No. Well, I know you only mean well and want to tell me that everything is going to be alright now. It's not necessary to do that. It will never leave me, the memories I mean, it's better like this, I will probably never forget Hinata or Bolt, I also never want to forget them. After all, they're my family but you both are now my family and I will do anything in my power to protect you both till my last breath. Naruto sighed as his hand went through his hair and then smiled a small exhausted smile at Kunou. Kunou my daughter, do you know why I told you this story instead of answering your question directly? Kunou looked up to him and shook her head slowly. It was so you could understand my reason for leaving better. I'm not saying you should forgive me just like that or that it was not wrong to leave, but please at least try to understand just why I did what I did. Kunou didn't need to think twice about it. Of course her father thanked her with a smile. I left because I was afraid. I was afraid to lose you both just like I lost Hinata and my unborn son. I was afraid to be near the two of you because I thought if I was near you both I would lose my current wife and child like I lost my past wife and child. And because I was so afraid to lose you both, I didn't even think about what would happen if maybe, just maybe someone could try to harm one or both of you, even if I was not near you. Yasaka looked like she wanted to say something, but she saw Kunou's look and that made her hold her tongue. You said you were afraid to lose us also, I can understand that. And I'm sorry I brought back bad memories. But I think we should stay away from each other for a while, so I can sort everything out. I am sorry father. Naruto smiled and nodded slowly. That's all I ask for. Take your time and I'm sure we could try to make family bonds later. For now it's enough for me to know you will think about it, but I have a question. Are you still against going to Kuoh because I work there? Because if you are I can assure you we won't see each other very often during school time. After all I'm teaching the third years and you would be a first year student. Kunou wanted to say no, but one look from her mother and her own rational thinking told her to still go. Yes I'm still going to Kuoh and if it is not too much to ask for I would want to live with you. Naruto looked surprised at that. Really? I mean you can still go to Kuoh even if you don't live with me. At her down expression he quickly explained further. I mean, yeah I would be happy to have you with me. But didn't you want me to let you alone for a while? Yeah, it's just I think if you're there it would be easier to get to know you better till I decide I can forgive you or not, said Kunou a little embarrassed. Oh of course, and if you should decide you can't forgive me, I can pay you an apartment or something. That is, if you want to continue to study at Kuoh. Okay. Said Naruto, a bit saddened she could decide to not forgive him. Yeah sounds good. I need to go now good night mom and dad. And with that Kunou rushed to her room to finish packing and about all that was said today. Naruto stood there with a stunned expression before a large smile spread across his face. Turning to Yasaka he asked. That's good, right? I mean the fact she's willing to call me dad implies that maybe I didn't totally funked up, right? He scratched his neck, unsure if it was too optimistic to think like that. Don't worry about that right now. Yasaka practically purred that sentence. And Naruto's sweat dropped. 15 years. 15 long years you let me dry, but now you're here and I will take you here and now if necessary she took slow seductive steps towards Naruto while he backed away with a gulp. Yasaka, are you in heat right now? What if I am? Naruto looked nervously around to avoid the clearly lustful gaze of Yasaka. Just as Yasaka was about to pound on her prey, the door opened and showed that Zenovia finished visiting Kyoto or at least part of it. Zenovia watched as the lustful gaze of Yasaka was replaced with an angry one at her. Am I interrupting something? Zenovia-chan, please leave the room. You're welcome to rest in the guest room. Said Yasaka with a smile and a sickly sweet voice. Behind Yasaka, Naruto tried to gesticulate to Zenovia for her to stay and mouthed a desperate please. At her what she ignored. Naruto could only helplessly watch on as Zenovia left the room with a quick apology and Yasaka turned her attention again to him. So, honey where were we? We were going to bed. Close, but wrong. Yes we are going to bed. Together. But we're not sleeping. Mercy. Slowly, a predatory smile appeared on Yasaka's face and she said the word he was scared and yet ecstatic to hear. Never. So this part ends here. Alright that's it for today's video guys, let me know in the comments section how was the story and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video, bye bye.